Hey there folks, Kozzi here for Pick One Pack One as we run through Jekk's Bounty on a budget. And we are well and truly into the home stretch. We are now up to mission number 15, the Countess. And this is the one that I was most excited to complete when I did my first run through. The Cabal Spymaster is a sweet card that unfortunately hasn't quite lived up to my hopes. I haven't been able to build something quite successful enough around it, but even so, I still hold hope. But regardless, let's take our way through this next particular mission. So we're up against the Countess. She's trying to track us down, or we're trying to get away from the bounty that's being put on our head as well. And here is a bit of that cool archetypal moment when you're up against a big bad and all of the minions or the goons flood in, and it's that overwhelming kind of power against you. Very much the style of Tarantino's Kill Bill or something like that, where you just have minions after minions flooding in because the Countess plays a knife jack at the start of each turn. Now this is a problem. She's going to be getting a lot of units and a lot of help. But the important thing about knife jacks is whenever they enter, they do 2 damage to the controller. So even though the Countess is going to be getting a lot of power, she's going to be reducing her life total every single turn, which we can then take to our advantage. How so? Well, the following 2 decks are hoping to do exactly that. The first one, and this isn't actually quite a Stonescar deck, it's a mono fire burn. It's a burn deck where we go, you know what, if we get to say turn 5 against the Countess, she's probably done 10 damage to herself, which means we only need to do 15 damage to her face to survive. Now the catch with this is if we don't engage with the units too much, they're going to be doing exponential damage to us. So 2 on the second turn, 4 after that, possibly 6, so we're taking 12 damage already. So unless we can finish the game by turn 4 or 5, we're at a loss here, and it leads to some very fun and exciting games, I'll be honest. As far as the cards, we have a solitary Charchain Flail, Flame Blast, Grenadin drones, because we actually want some chump blockers to slow down that exponential damage. Or indeed, if we can trade off, we're fine with that too. Oni Ronins, because any of these 2-1s will be able to trade off with one of their units. Torches, Kaleb's Favor, so he can get up to more expensive stuff whilst also keeping up the pressure with the damage. Piercing Shot is an absolute MVP here. It kills one of their units and it does 2 damage to them, all for the low cost of 2, which means that we're not missing out on the opportunity cost of doing too much damage to our opponent. Assembly Line, again, chump blockers are useful here to hold on, and then Burnout to use our chump blockers on. I've got Rebel Illuminator here because I'm working on a budget. She'll be able to block one of their units and then give me a torch so I can burn the face. She is expensive, which is a bit of a shame, but it works. Flashfire is the great reason to be in mono fire, and then Obliterates at the very top and a couple of Stonescar Mauls. So a very simple game plan, very honest. We're working on the assumption that if we kill her on turn 5, we only need to do 15 damage to the face. How else can we approach this? Well, I've also got another control style deck. This time we're moving away from Feln. We're actually going into Felnscar by incorporating the red. And the reason why is because we want the burn. We want the Flame Blast, we want the torch, and we want the piercing shot. Often when people go into Felnscar, it's actually for the mythics. We can't afford that in our budget, but that's okay. We can make do. We also get to take advantage of some very solid units that are difficult for my opponent to deal with. We have Borderlands Waykeeper that can initially just block the 2/2s, but then can start to offer up a trade. They're difficult to remove thanks to Aegis. We have Feln Bloodcasters, which are very capable blockers if we can get them down early and allow us to draw so we don't run out of cards. And then finally we have Stewards of the Past, which allow us to block almost anything. That's our rare allocation here, by the way, between the Feln Bloodcast and the Steward of the Past, and both of these are cards that you'll use in any style of control deck you'll ever play. Of course, the MVP for this matchup, Lightning Storm. When they're playing a whole bunch of units with 2 health, this will allow us to get massively into the game and to, rather than fear the exponential damage that they'll be able to do against us, it allows us on turn 3 or 4 just to put a stop to it and then to continue. And besides that, we have some of the most effective spot removal that we can get, including in this instance we can use Execute. We know that our opponent is going to attack if they ever have the opportunity to do so profitably. To be able to kill it and still do 2 damage to them, we're staying on that burn plan, knowing that if we can get them down low, we're fine. We can buy a little bit of breathing time with a Crystallize, and then finally we have a playset of Static Bolts, because they can not only kill our opponent's units, but they're also burn spells in a pinch. The largest challenge with this is getting the power base right. We've chosen to rely on seats to try and get our colors. As far as the actual colors, we don't have a lot, which is double. We have double Primal for Wisdom of the Elders. We have double Shadow for Steward of the Past, as well as Feln Bloodcaster. And then we have triple Fire for the Flame Blast, but that's the only card that pushes us there. Torch is single, Piercing Shot is single, and then I'm fairly certain the rest of these are just single as well. So that's also the other reason for having Seek Powers in the deck, is to make sure we just hit the right colors at the right time. There is a risk rather of flooding out a little bit, but we definitely have a catch-up mechanism here in Lightning Storm. This is a matchup for the combat maths nerds. This is a real... Every time it's come right down to the wire for me when playtesting these, and you have to make some counterintuitive plays working on the assumption that you know that she's going to be playing at least 2 more Knife Jacks and going from there. It's a lot of fun. I really do enjoy this particular mission. Another approach that you could take is to run a whole bunch of chump blockers, run some kind of Elysian Dork deck with just a whole bunch of little dudes. That will work fine as well. I think this hand's okay. We do have a small risk of not being able to play this, but we have some early burn, early way of dealing with a unit. I think we're okay here. This is the one where the punctuation annoys me. I get irritated every single time I see it. Okay, so currently we have 3, 5, 11 points of damage. I think we can afford to wait on the torch, especially as we don't have anything to do on turn 3. So we'll sit back. They'll get their first Knife Jack. If they don't play any equipment on it, we'll be able to Piercing Shot it straight away and get off to a pretty good start. There's our turn 3 play, which is both good news and bad news. It means I did miss out on that opportunity to burn my opponent. Yes, this semicolon here. Oh boy. I think I complained about it in my initial run through too. I was getting pretty cranky at the state of play by that stage. So what I'd like to do is just see another power or two. We have the choice of playing our Pyroknight, or we can play our assembly line. I think I want to use my power as efficiently as possible if need be. We'll play the Pyroknight later on. It isn't a bad thing at all to slow roll the Pyroknight. Her ultimate and turning her into a 6/5 straight away is a really useful ability. So here we can either chump block, we can double block to try and kill the Knife Jack, or we can just take the 2. I think we're happy just to get in the way for the time being. Every one of these that we kill is longer that we get to draw our particular burn cards. This one is going to be dedicated towards blocking the Shadowlands guy now, he thinks. So that one's a little bit of a shame. We really wanted to be able to drop the Rebel Illuminator so we can just get a little bit more aggressive. Once we get to 5, they're dead. They are literally dead. We have 12 points of damage in hand. So now we have the arduous decision of whether we want to slow down their attacks or do damage to them. So I've currently drawn 3 sigils, which means I have 22 out of 65. So that's just short of a 1 in 3 chance of drawing a sigil. If we don't draw a sigil, we have about 11 out of 65 of drawing something that we can't play. This is holding back 3 damage a turn, so even though I could stop 2, I feel as though it's playing a better role, stopping the Shadowlands Guide. So I think we can afford to take the 4 here. And the question now is, do I torch their face? If I've decided not to burn to save damage, I think I've decided just to go hard for the face. That's a fantastic draw. So now our goal is to survive another 3 turns after this. So if they're to attack for 4, then they're to attack for 6, that's 10 damage, and then they can attack for 8, that's 18. We should be okay without needing to block quite yet, even if we don't draw anything. If we're to burn here, it'll put them down to 3. They'll have to play another Knife Jack, and then if they can't kill me this turn, they're dead. So if that's the case, if they're to attack with everybody, and I block here, they'll be doing 2, 4, 6, 8. I think we've done it. I think we're okay. The number of times that the Countess has died when I've been testing out these decks. Ooh, okay, so they can attack for 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, so we're still okay currently. But yeah, this will often come down to the wire. And we've been able to survive even though we weren't able to play 2 of the cards in our hand. In our opening hand, thanks to Power Screw. Whew. Jeez, it's always quite nerve-wracking because you'll often find yourself when you're racing like this up against a massive board. And if we hadn't have used that torch on the right turn, I think we would have been in trouble. So there you go, that's the first one. Now let's take a slightly more conservative route and actually deal with the units that they're playing with our Felnscar Control deck. I don't love this hand. We have plenty of power, but the Flame Blasts aren't the cards that I really want to use it for. We don't have card draw to draw into the cards that I want to have, so I think we'll ship this one back. This is a much, much, much better hand thanks to that, and thanks to that. Chatting, chatting, chatting. Let's get into the game. Now this deck isn't as bloody minded as the previous one was. This isn't all about doing damage to the face, because I can afford to stabilize the board via my Lightning Storm. And so I have a choice between playing my Waykeeper and a Piercing Shot. I feel as though the Waykeeper should be able to hold it back unless they play equipment on it. Any equipment we play we can use the torch to deal with. Otherwise we can hold them back and they can build a nice big board for me to Lightning Storm into. Her ability costs 4 from memory. And so next turn we're going to be playing Steward of the Past. Do I want to use my Lightning Storm here? I could just choose to use a Piercing Shot to get some damage on. Or I could just sit back and wait. Torch the face if need be, if they don't cast anything that I feel is important. Yeah, I feel as though I can afford to wait a turn. The main piece of equipment I've seen them play is the Deadly Daggers. Okay, that one hurts a little bit. It means that we're going to take 4 damage here. She's pretty much useless to us now because if we pay 4, and she's going to die to the Lightning Storm anyway, so we'll use her as a blocker to save us some life. Do we want to torch the face? No, I feel as though we're okay. Are there any colours that we're missing? No, not particularly. So I think this is the turn that I'll Lightning Storm and just reset the board. So if that's the case, we can afford to thin our deck a little bit. It's the card I was hoping to drop sooner or later. Is it worth using a torch on it? Yeah, we can't afford to do both of these next turn, and I do want to play the Steward of the Past. Although, do I really care? Probably I don't even care that much. I'll be able to play the Steward of the Past anyway and hold this up. And so now we're going to start thinking a lot more proactively, knowing that we can do 5 or 6 damage with this Flame Blast. So let's say I draw a Sigil. I got 6, 9, 11 damage, which puts her on a 2-turn clock from here. Okay, that's unfortunate. So let's draw myself a card. And also increase the number of turns that I can sit and wait for. Oh, I keep forgetting. There's a little Nombo built in here of Steward of the Past silencing as they enter the void. I've fooled myself for it a couple of times now, which is a bit of a shame. I really should have waited. That was a bad play. Because what it does is, the unit goes to the void, this substitution effect happens that silenced it, and the ability that was on it was when it dies, I get to draw a card. And so I missed out on that because I was silly. Do we want to do it for 5? If we draw another card, we're not going to be able to do it for full value. If we draw a Sigil, we're going to want to draw the cards. So yeah, I think we go for the face now. And say you've got 3 turns to kill me, even though I made a terrible mistake. If she's attacking like that, it means she's probably got the spell that does 1 damage to a creature. And so if that's the case, I'd rather take the 4 and keep my Film Bloodcaster to hold back all of these Knife Jacks. Okay, so it was a Plague instead. This is fine because it buys me a lot of time. It even allows me to cheekily attack in for point of damage. And now, unless they can kill me on this turn, they are dead. Unfortunately, because I silenced that Knife Jack, it's not going to kill her. Which is a little bit of a shame, but so be it. We'll kill this Knife Jack. Sit back and let you kill yourself. I genuinely believe about 90% of my playthroughs against the Countess have concluded by her killing herself with Knife Jack damage. That might just be the way that I'm trying to play it, but yeah. So yeah, one major howler of a mistake, forgetting about my Nombo. I'll quickly talk about it just in case you guys do choose to copy it and explain why, because it's a little bit counterintuitive. So the ability of Steward of the Past is amazing. It's one of the premium cards for trying to hit your opponent's void. So it has both a summon ability that silences all units in the enemy void, and then whenever an enemy unit enters the void, it is silenced. Now, a lot of the when it enters the void abilities, it has to have entered the void for it to trigger, whereas this hits them whilst they're entering the void. So they head towards the void, they get silenced, they lose that ability, and then don't get to trigger in the first place because it's been silenced. Particularly useful against some nasty cards in Constructed. In this instance, I hurt myself because that particular wanted criminal, I wasn't able to draw a card, and what I should have done was to wait for that kill spell to have resolved, then to have torched the wanted criminal, and then I would have been able to draw an additional card. But fortunately, it didn't come to matter, and we were able to get away with it. So there you go, folks. Relatively simple matchup against the Countess, and we get ready for our final match. Just business up against Jekk himself. I've been Kozzi, running through these videos for Pick 1 Pack 1. I hope that you have enjoyed them and that they've been useful for you, and they might have even opened up your eyes to some builds of decks that you might have come across. Particularly the early ones. I think Felnscar and Burn are relatively common. But either way, I hope that this has been of value to you. I've been enjoying making them, and I do hope that you've been enjoying watching them. One more to go, folks. I look forward to seeing you for the series finale up against Jekk himself. Have a good one.